I don't like that one. Let's go to this one.
Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on in again. It's time for us to do this thing we call perseverance. Let's do something here that we know we're going to help somebody in the long run get over whatever they're getting through, going through. We all go through something every now and again. Sometimes some of us more than others. Okay. But what do? Let's work with other people, help them, and just build this chain link and help people as long as we can. And who knows, 100 years from now, some of your advice is going to be pushed on to other people to help them persevere past their paralysis. Today, our topic is, of course, we talk about a lot of things. Okay, if you go back and listen to some of the others, but today we're going to talk about my main man, Ricardo. We had to put him down January 4th. He's my service dog, for the ones that don't know. He was my service canine companion. And so I just wanted to give a tribute to him. And I got some friends that's going to share and help with me to go from there. But Ricardo, in his own, he deserves a send off for this, for all that he's done for me and other people. So today, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to come in with the one that would know Ricardo about as good as me. Jen from Canine Companions of Independence, that's where I received Ricardo, had to go to Orlando. And here's where they get their final training, all the training, some of the training. And then participants like me are blessed enough to receive this creature to make life easier and better. Jen, welcome to the show here.
Hi, thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, we're glad that you're here and everything. So, all right. We know why I'm here for because we're doing the Ricardo. So, give us a little insight if you can remember what was Ricardo like before I got there.
Mm. Yeah, so I was looking back at your file, James, and you applied for the program in 2008, and Ricardo was born in 2008. So, for those who aren't familiar, Canine Companions, those two tracks are running simultaneously. We have the dog side. The dogs they're born, they're trained with puppy raisers. It's a volunteer position. And then they come into our campus for professional training for about 6 months. And simultaneously, on the people side, people like James are applying, going through the application steps, working with our staff. We're getting to know them, their needs, and then they both come together in a team training class on our campus. So Ricardo, he is such a fun dog, Mr. Personality, and just a beautiful dog. So he's a black lab. And I don't remember offhand, James, was he a cross? Did he have golden retriever in him too? Or was he a full lab?
I think it was full lab.
Okay. Yeah, I can go back and confirm, but just a fun to train. I got to work with him at our campus for about 6 months. And I personally love the higher energy dogs, the ones that you have to kind of rein in a little bit and focus their attention and their passion because it's just so much fun. And so a dog like Ricardo, he's got the drive, he's got the energy, he's got the the willingness, and just a smart, sharp dog too. So it was a pleasure to get to train him and work with him. And then going into class, of course, we're always looking at the people. So we don't make an exact match. Like before you came to class, it wasn't a guarantee that you were going home with Ricardo. We wanted you to work with a few different dogs, but it was pretty obvious pretty quickly that this was going to be a great match between the two of you.
Well, part of the system, then I had to learn it, was I had no say so in which dog I wanted. That y'all, like you said, try to match up the personalities, the needs, and everything with each other. And so I'm glad that I was able to match up with Ricardo's energy for me
Hmm.
to get that. Now I'm not going to lie here, maybe not much anyway, but I was kind of wondering because I was a coach
Hmm.
and Ricardo with the higher energy, if that played a little into it, that I could rein him in when I needed to, and compared to a passive person.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So when we're inviting our students to class, James, you're well familiar with just the detail that we get into when we're looking at our applicants. So we want to know your lifestyle, your home environment, your routine, your physical abilities, disabilities, your equipment, your personality. All of those things play into a placement. And then on the dog side, we know a lot about the dogs. We can anticipate how they might do with certain handlers or in certain context. But there's just something about seeing it in person. I often say it's not just a dog that can do the skills for you. It's a dog that you enjoy working with him. He enjoys working with you. Kind of like our relationship maybe to our coworkers. There's some coworkers that you can get the job done. You can do what you need to do. But there's other coworkers that maybe you just enjoy so much more. You've got a similar work ethic or sense of humor. You've got compatible styles. And that was you and Ricardo. So you can be a lot of fun, of course, James, but you can also be disciplined and structured. And that's really good for a dog with a little bit more energy, like Ricardo. And so again, if you can focus that and direct that energy, it's perfect. It's a really nice pairing.
Two things I remember once we were all assigned a dog. There was 9 of us getting a dog at that time when we were there, and so towards the end, I remember you telling that if you don't want someone to pet your dog because they're working, you can get that patch on. Do not pet. I'm working. Do not pet. Working dog. Whatever else. Or if you wanted to allow someone, that's totally up to us.
Hmm.
And I was the one that said, "Well, I'm going to let people play with him as much. That way, he's not just getting love from me.
Hmm.
Plus, I can get in and share my story how I got in the wheelchair." And so I had a double-edged sword going that he can get some extra attention and share my story. So I remember that. And but then the other thing I remember you was telling the weaknesses. You was telling other people what the dog's little weakness is, so they can be aware of that. And I remember you telling me Ricardo's weakness was he wanted to work and please all the time.
Mm.
We had to make him be a dog, a puppy, and let him play.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's always good to know that about the dogs, right? It's like us. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and we encourage our students our teams be a student of your dog. Get to know them. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What's their biggest reward? What's their biggest distraction? And then that gives you knowledge and informs your handling style. So, yeah, you have a dog like Ricardo that loves to work and has that drive. That's a great thing, but it's also nice to have that downtime too, and that's ultimately going to make him a better dog for you if he has that rest and he has that outlet for his energy, time to play and enjoy being with other people. And that's something that we would leave to the prerogative of the handlers. So some of our graduates, just as a general rule, they don't allow people to pet their dog. Others really utilize that because it can be a nice social bridge, have conversations. Maybe they're accustomed to not having a lot of positive interactions out in public. And this is a really nice way to engage with the public and talk to people, make new friends, talk about our organization, talk about themselves, because it's a really easy bridge for communication.
And I understand it the other way too, that they want to make sure the dog is doing what they're supposed to do. Don't want that distraction. Yep, and I understand either way. There's no right or wrong. Whoever chooses whichever way. And
Mhm.
if you go one way, it's not working. You can still go back the other way. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell folks all the time, it could change moment by moment, depending on how your day's going or what the distraction is. There might be some people out in public that you do allow to pet. There might be others that you can just tell. If I tell them they can pet this dog, they're going to be all over the dog. They're so excited. So I might not honor that request. And you might feel differently day to day. The dog might be feeling a little bit differently. So all that comes into play, and that's just part of being a good handler, getting a read on your dog, a read on the situation, and then making the best choice.
I'm going to tell you this, Jen, that, and I probably told you when I called you and told him we had finally put him down. And
Mm.
when he got where he couldn't get up, them hips finally gave out. And like I said, he always wanted to work,
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to please. So when it was time for me to get in bed, he'd always get up and then come sit or lay down by my bed. Well,
Mm.
that night I'm getting in bed, and y'all train the dogs not to bark, so they're not a distraction out in public. All of a sudden, we heard two barks,
Mm.
and Ricardo wanted to get up because he knew it's time for me to get in bed. That he had to be by the bed, and
Mm-hmm.
them old hips. Once my brother helped him up, he was able to walk, and so yeah, he sure enough he barked twice. What's going on? And so yeah, and he came in there to lay down, so he was still working to the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just so ingrained in the dogs, and they have that drive, that want to, and a lot of times, and despite their physical abilities, they still want to do the job. And I love that that was him all the way to the
Yeah.
very end.
Hey, on listening and watching on one of the Facebooks there, uh, it's Ricardo's veterinarian,
Ah,
William Baber. He said we live on and on. Period. Yes, sir, Doctor Babe. Appreciate it, brother. So, yeah, I remember like 2 years before we had put Ricardo down. I remember seeing Doctor Baber at the store. I said, Doc is getting close to that time, and he said, "Man, you may have to find somebody else to do it. I don't think I could do it."
mm,
With he just loved Ricardo, and Ricardo loved him. But Bill hung in and did the right thing with us, and I appreciate him. He made everything comfortable and easy to go through. So yeah, it was when I called him and told him it was that time. Um, hey, I called and I said, "Hey Doc, it's James and Ricardo." He said, "Yeah, brother, what you need?" And then I lost it. I started crying, and he goes, uh, "Is it time?" And I go, "Yeah." So
mm.
yeah. So but Dr. Baber, appreciate it, brother, for coming in. So all right, Jen, let's get two more people in here. They're going to share some stories with Ricardo. We got Bird and Jan coming in, so y'all can
Hey,
share with us. Hey, appreciate y'all coming in.
Well, thanks, James. I probably speak for Jen. Jen, man, the old tears are flowing.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
James, that story I hadn't heard it. The last act of Ricardo.
Yeah, he was still serving right at the end. Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This,
and Jen, I've got to compliment you. James knows me. I've been writing books, speaking on leadership for many many years, and I was just thinking, listening to you and James. And number one, Jen, thank you for what you and your organization does for people. Uh, of the more than 16,000 leaders that I've worked with through the years with my business partner, is we've discovered the four virtues of the most authentic, effective leaders. And I was writing these down, and I just said, man, Ricardo.
Mm.
And here they are. Uh, there are more, but these are the four most important virtue. Virtue is a value in action, right? You can talk all day, but if you don't live it, like Ricardo lived it. Integrity of character, there's Ricardo. So passion for what they did, Ricardo,
oh,
right?
definitely.
But Hitler had passion. The third one is compassion for those you serve. If you don't love
Mm,
people, you'll never lead them. Ricardo, compassion. And then humility is number four. God, Ricardo was humble. It was never about him. And we've also, and I made these notes, Jen, as you and James were talking. It was beautiful. The most fulfilling purpose of the most authentic, happiest leaders is being a part of something greater than self.
Mm.
Ricardo was never about him, it was serving. And James, I was reflecting when I first met you, it's been over 10 years ago at a speakers conference here in Nashville, Tennessee. And those of you who are listening and you folks, I don't believe in coincidence. James has heard this. Coincidence to me is just God's way of remaining anonymous. And the fact that I didn't attend a lot of those speakers meetings, but that particular day I went, and I think the good Lord, I know the good Lord wanted me to meet James and Ricardo. So, and gosh, that just the loyalty of that Ricardo laying by James and pleasing James. And, true friends love you for who you are, not what you have or what you can do for them. Right.
Mhm.
And that was Ricardo. And gosh, and the many times that I had a chance to go to the park, James, with you and Ricardo, remember that was the last time we
Oh
went
yeah.
to lunch and then we went to the park. And I got to say this, that day when we met, now Ricardo not only had a servant heart, but his master, James, has got one of the biggest servant hearts. I've never, with James's story, I've never heard him complain. Never. It's never about him. And remember, James, you went to I asked James, where do you want to go for lunch? He said, we went to lunch and said, well, how about pizza? And Bert, I have a friend that's living out of her car, and I'd like to take her some pizza. Now, is that James Purdue?
Mhm.
Not only did his companion, his best friend, have that servant heart, but James Purdue. And again, I've never heard James complain. And by the way, he's got every reason to be bitter. I mean, life's not always fair. And but anyway, of the many, many people that I've met in my life, nobody more authentic than James Purdue and his loving companion, Ricardo. And by the way, Ricardo's listening to us from heaven and he's smiling. And by the way, he's now able to eat McDonald's fries and Big Macs, and you can't control it anymore, James. So
Well, I'm not going to lie and say he never got a sampling. he never got a full meal, but he got some samplings of that stuff. So
and Jen, I got to also say, and then I'll hush because I could talk all day about my two friends. I love what you said, though. There's got to be joy in our life. If an animal's only just disciplined to serve, man, they got to have fun too. So you
Mhm.
saw that in Ricardo, spirited like his master. I just know how James was before he had that unfortunate accident. Uh, but to have that, that spirit that you don't want to beat down. Too often as human beings, we want to beat the spirit out of people, and people always ask me, I've been blessed. I'm known for original quotes and acronyms, and I've written 4 books on leadership, not about me, but they always ask me this question, and I will hush after this. Bird, what's your favorite quote out of your 4 books on leadership, i.e. behaviors? And it's this, and it'll always be this. If you don't love people, you will never lead them.
Mhm.
And Ricardo loved you, James.
oh, I truly believe that. Yeah. So Bert, I was going to tell you, since you said you never heard me complain. Yeah, I try to make it a rule not to complain between 8 and 4. So you catch me at 4:30, you may catch me on a different, you may catch me differently then. So
Oh,
and
man.
so all
Yeah.
right. Thank you for again. Anytime you want to jump in, just ask a question. Someone just jump on in there with his bird. Jan,
Yes, sir.
come on in here. Yeah, you knew me before, and then you knew me
After
after
Ricardo.
Ricardo entered
Yeah,
the life.
big difference.
We met at Toastmasters.
Yes, we did.
Ah.
Yeah. And yeah, James was an excellent speaker, as you can imagine. But when he came in with Ricardo, our Toastmasters meeting that night was kind of crumbled. It was all about Ricardo, and of course James and you guys had trained him well, and he came in and James said, "Say hello, Ricardo," and he's like, "Oh," the dog could talk. We were like, yeah, that's the Toastmasters. That's where he should be. But I was a caregiver. I was a physical therapy assistant for almost 40 years. And in my career, I saw many people confined to their homes or needing extra help. And they were often dependent on other people for that. And some of the people were, consistent. Some of the people were really caring. Some of the people were there for the paycheck. And like you were saying, you got to love people, lead them, Bird. Ricardo was there to serve, man. And he did not have one bone in his body that said, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do. Anywhere you saw James, you saw Ricardo on the job, as you say, but he could play. And, but one of the special things that James and I were able to do, which I was very happy to be part of, I used to work for a rehab center for traumatic brain injured clients. And a lot of them, as you say, Bird, felt the right to be bitter, and they were. And a lot of them were just depressed over their situation, understandably so. But I asked James if he would mind coming and speaking to these guys and bringing Ricardo. And when James walked in with that dog, I saw an entire group of my clients just light up like I had never seen before. The connection they had with the love that Ricardo was sharing with them was just a very beautiful moment in time. And that's just the way Ricardo was. I also was a personal caregiver for a lady that I had met in school, in PTA school. And a long story short, she ended up having a brain tumor that required numerous surgeries, numerous different situations. And she became totally bound to her home in 1996. And Ricardo, I was telling James how my friend Nancy loved animals. And she was always an outdoors kind of person, And when this happened and she couldn't be outside and she couldn't take care of dogs anymore and she couldn't really have pets anymore, James brought Ricardo over. And it was difficult for James to get in our home because every entrance practically had stairs. Well, James is good in his wheelchair, but I don't think he can climb them steps in it yet. But anyway,
They can come down them.
Yeah, you could come down them, not gracefully, but you go down. Anyway, so we had a back door that James could get his wheelchair in. He'd pull right up to the back of the house, and he brought Ricardo into this rec room we had. And I helped Nancy down there. And that was one of the brightest moments I'd seen her have in a long time. Ricardo just walked up to her, just instinctively knew this was somebody that really needed a companion, somebody that really needed to feel that extra little amount of love. And I think you brought him 2 or 3 times and let her enjoy Ricardo. And James had a few little tricks he'd get Ricardo to do for her. And it just made a difference in her whole life. As Ricardo did so many people, but the main difference in somebody's life that he made was James. And their relationship was something that you just can't find really with human beings. Ricardo was the most loyal service dog, yes, but he was the most loyal best friend to James. And anytime James needed anything, Ricardo was right there. When I'd go to see James at his house, I'd get in the door and James was sitting at his computer always. And there was Ricardo right at his feet. And Ricardo wasn't moving. He didn't care if you needed to get around or whatever. Ricardo was there for his master, his friend. his buddy. And as James was saying, he always wanted to be either at James's feet or when James was in the bed, at James's bed. And he provided that love and that companionship. Yes, he was a great assistant for James in the things that he was able to help him do, but nothing could compare to the relationship James had and Ricardo had with James. It was just an absolute beautiful thing to see. And it's just an honor for me to give any kind of tribute to Ricardo because I know for a fact that dog made a difference, a huge difference in James's life. But throughout the time you had him, James, and all the trips to Walmart or Cracker Barrel, as you said, or Chili's or wherever, Ricardo made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And there's hardly any human that can say we really were able to touch that many lives in that special way with that kind of connection instantly. But Ricardo could do that. And he was a beautiful dog, a beautiful animal, and just a beautiful love that he gave to all of us. And I love that dog. You know, that little book you wrote, James, about Ricardo's Christmas, and you gave that to Nancy. That was one of her favorite stories to have read to her. Her eyesight wasn't good enough, so I'd read that story to her, and it'd just bring a smile to her face. So many, many special things that James has done and Ricardo has done with him, and the two of them together were just an absolute perfect match. So, Jen, your organization definitely hit the nail on the head with those two. You couldn't have placed him in a better place with a better person. And all of us are going to miss Ricardo for a very long time.
And
Love
Jen
you,
is
buddy.
with again Canine Companions for Independence. John Bentley jumping in and watching here.
John,
You know John Bentley, don't you, there, Bird?
I
Sending
sure.
hugs and prayers to us. All right, thank you, John.
Very nice, John.
Oh,
By the way, Jen, and boy, Jen, what a testimony. You know, we're all going to leave a legacy, right? I kid
Yes,
people.
sir.
I said I'm ready to go. I just don't go on the next load, you know. But I don't have a choice in that. And I just was thinking, listening to you, Jen, and it just, you know, the number one responsibility of a leader is to keep hope alive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And
You bet.
I heard this years ago, and it really, really stuck with me. We can live 40 days without food, 4 days without water, but only 4 seconds without hope.
Yes.
Uh, and James has been very open and candid with me. You know, one time in my life, I tried to take it. And James is, you know, he got a bizarre sense of humor. He said, you know, he failed, I think, 3 times trying to kill himself. So the good Lord said, hey, there must be a reason for me to stay here. But I go back to I'm talking to myself when I say this. What am I doing today for the betterment of mankind? And, you know, we're all going to leave a legacy. And James knows this. And I'm 74 years old, but in 2007, I went through our leader development experience and I discovered my purpose. Because I can smell an ego from a mile away because mine used to really stink. But my purpose is to live a life that inspires hope in others. And listening to Jen, and of course, James, that's what Ricardo did. He kept hope alive. And, you know, I'm convinced it doesn't matter what we have or what we accomplish in life. In the end, what really matters is who we have beside us, right? And the worst disease a person can have, Jen, and you know this, is loneliness. And so having the canine companion to keep hope alive for James, and you can tell by Jan and I talking, kept hope alive for us. I mean, you know, it
Absolutely.
kind of pisses me off, James, because I don't think I'll have this many people saying good things about me when I'm gone. But that's okay. You know, James knows this. I had a golden retriever, Jen, named Lily, named after my favorite aunt, by the way, and we had to put her down. And man, I cried like a baby, like James. And our three adult children, they said, Daddy, you love Lily more than us. I said, that's not true. But there's two things you can learn about Lily. Number one, she never complained. And number two, she never asked for money. But Jen, let me ask you a question,
Yeah.
because I'm going to post this on my LinkedIn. It's not about me. Your organization rely a lot on donations?
We do, yeah. So, Canine Companions, we are able to provide our services free of charge and ongoing support for all of our graduates at no cost, which is a huge opportunity. We always are looking for more donors, more friends of the organization, more supporters. But we feel incredibly fortunate to be able to do that. We have people that come from a wide variety of backgrounds and needs. And so there's not a cost for them to apply. There's not a cost for them to attend a team training class. And then we are committed to them for the lifetime of the placement. So that could be very well an 8 to 10 year working career, 8 to 10 years. Even in retirement, we're still available as a resource if people have questions about their dog's health or needs. And we want to be a part of their lives. I often joke we don't just hand dogs to people and say good luck, see ya. Like, we want to be in their lives
Wow.
for the rest of the career, and it's a privilege to do that. It's a privilege to be able to walk alongside our graduates and get to know and continue to have those conversations. Like James, you and I, it's been more than 10 years, more than 15 years now. And to be able to be a part of your life and know the impact of Ricardo and get to see you before and during and after that working career is really special.
Well, the application and everything you sent, that it filled out all the way through, we didn't get in specifically, why. I just said I needed a dog for help, needed, companion and everything. But I talked to you afterwards when I told you we put Ricardo down that, one of my speeches, Bird and a Jen, is hope comes in the form of a dog. And I was telling how Jen, but again, Jen didn't know this, that, like you said, Bird, attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out. And and then while I'm in the hospital, my brother brings a letter from Canine Companions, and it says, and I remember it. It's not word for word now, Jen, but it basically said, "We've been calling you. There's no answer. We've sent emails, no answer. We think we have a dog for you. You need to respond so we know if you still want one." And so, here I am in hospital after attempting suicide 3 times in 3 days. Here's this letter comes in. So I talk about, hope. It comes in the form of a dog, there. So, and a letter.
Wow. Hey, Jen, can people, how do they reach out and learn how to make donations if they're so inclined and their heart is touched? What is your website? Is it
Yeah,
Canine Companions?
it's canine.org. So that's all spelled out, canine.org. And on the website, there's clear directions if you wanted to donate, if you want to volunteer, if you're interested in raising a puppy, applying for a dog, taking a tour of our campus, just number of ways that you can be involved. And I know for James, you up there in Tennessee, we do have chapters for key areas of the region. So we are a national organization. We serve all 50 states, and we have 6 regional training centers. So on the website, you could connect with the specific regional training center that's closest to you. You might be able to connect with a chapter, which is a group of graduates, puppy raisers, volunteers, donors who continue our mission and serve in their local community. So we have a group in Nashville that's very active in supporting the mission and providing education, providing events to work in their community. And so there's all kinds of ways that you could be involved. And of course, we always appreciate the donors that really back the mission and allow us to continue doing what we're doing at no cost to our clients.
Jen, could you just type in the chat box the website, the web address, so people would have access to that?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And while you're doing that, Jim, tell them, and I'm sure because of inflation, everything's different than it was 14 years ago. But I
Oh,
remember y'all passing Ricardo on to me, and again at no cost to us because y'all do your own fundraisers,
wow.
donations, and everything. But at that time, y'all told me it cost $40,000 for the training,
Wow.
upkeep before they gave him to me. So we're talking 40 plus $1,000 that someone didn't have to worry about raising, if they
Mm.
qualify for your program.
Hmm. Yeah, the number we give now is 50, like you said.
I
Some
believe it. Yeah.
changes
Oh, yeah.
over the
Yeah.
year. Yeah, and that takes into account there are so many people who are involved in a placement. I feel incredibly blessed that I get to have a front row seat and connect directly with our clients, but there are so many people who are involved. We have our national headquarters out in Santa Rosa, California. We have a breeding program out there, a team of veterinarians, a team of breeder caretakers
Now
that
that's
work with
where
us.
Ricardo, don't you like say do all the breeding and things? So
Mhm.
he's a Californian.
Yes, yes. He hails from Santa Rosa. So yeah, a group of people that work with the mama's dogs and oversee the whelping of the puppies. We have a whole team of people who work with the pups when they're very young, just days old, weeks old, to begin that socialization process. We have volunteers who take the puppies into their homes as a volunteer position as a puppy raiser, and they lay the foundation for the dog's training. And that could be individuals, it could be a retired couple, it could be a college student. We have a lot of college programs where they have clubs to raise puppies. We even
Oh,
work
that's
with
neat.
many prison systems, and the dogs are paired with inmates within the prison systems. And they do a phenomenal job of training the dogs and preparing them for their working role. And then, of course, they come to our campus. They spend 6 months with us here in professional training. We have our trainers, we have our kennel staff, we have our philanthropy team that work with our donors and volunteers and do events and galas and work out in the community. We have a media team, all of those things to make these placements. And I think that's one of the things that's just so special again about our organization is so many people working together to make these placements. And many of them may never meet a graduate in person, but they have that connection to the mission. Ideally, they would get to come to, our graduation ceremony, see it in person and get to celebrate and witness and celebrate those matches. But even like the puppy raisers, Ricardo's puppy raisers, when they agreed to raise him, they didn't know who you were, James. They wouldn't come to know until he was actually matched. And I just think that's an incredible impact that they got to have, to spend so much time and attention and love pouring into him, knowing that he would go on to help someone, and then ultimately to have a really special gift and get to meet you. And I say it's kind of this general idea that, I know the dog's going to help someone one day, or James, for you, this general idea of, I know I want a service dog one day, but then to see you two together and know, okay, it's this specific dog, it's this specific person that we're matching together is
Wow.
really special.
Now,
Yeah.
Ricardo was trained in the Mississippi prison system.
Mhm.
I still have the guy's picture with Ricardo wearing his inmate jail uniform, in there, and I still have his picture. And I
Wow.
think that he did that great of a job, But I saw before I started wanting to get a service dog. I remember seeing the documentary, and they were showing. I guess then it was fairly early, letting
Mhm.
inmates help train the dogs. And they interviewed this one guy, and he was bawling, crying, and it's not because he had the dog. He said this dog gave him the unconditional love that he never got from his own parents growing up.
Wow.
Wow.
And then he was bawling because it was
Mm.
time for that dog to go to the next phase, that he's done his part, and he was losing that love. So
Wow.
it was strong.
Well, hey,
Mm.
So
James, I know you probably are, but are you going to post before we finish? You're going to post a photo of Ricardo?
do I have any photos of Ricardo?
You might have
There's
one.
there's
There he
Miss
is.
Jane Marshall at the Toastmaster with Ricardo,
Ah.
and Jane, she actually passed away the day before we put Ricardo down. I found out,
Mm.
and so I
Wow.
was thinking she's up there dancing with Jesus, and she's back with her husband Bob, her big teddy bear, and
Mm.
she can help care for Ricardo a little bit. Now she gonna get mad because when I get up there, she ain't keeping him. So so and then here's Jane that put uh made a cake. Welcome Ricardo, we love you, Master James. Now Jane, I love Jane, and but she didn't want him to get wet when it's raining.
Yeah, I remember
Ricardo's Ricardo's not happy with that, but I made him wear it one. I made him wear it one time just so we can take the picture, so I can give it to Jane. But
Wow.
after
I
that, I
remember
put
that.
it up in the closet.
I remember that. Oh, mercy.
Here, if you look, we're at a speaking opportunity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ricardo had a birthday. He didn't like his hat. Now he was our Santa Claus when it was time,
Bless
Oh,
his heart. He's so sweet.
and when we did get officially retired, we gave him the big one.
Yeah, baby. That's what I'm saying, Ricardo.
So
Wow.
yeah, plenty of
wow.
so um yeah. Thank you for throwing that in. Hey, also go back here real quick. John Bentley, he said, hope helping one person every day, and that's sometimes that one person is yourself.
Mm.
That's right, brother.
Hey, hey,
Sunshine, hey, thank you for coming in. Hey, Sunshine, yeah, we're talking about loving our pets and when it's time to go, and how we're still loving them. So, and Sunshine, actually, Sunshine and I met many moons ago. She was a student at the school that I did my student teaching. So
wow.
she's a good one there. So all right, well shoot. Anything else we need to discuss? What Ricardo did? Now
I
I
haven't.
did I did I was gonna say I haven't forgotten. I told you I was going to send some more books to you. It just I told you about my mom had a bunch of health issues there for a while. So, but this is Ricardo's first little children's book. Uh, I was like 45 when I got Ricardo, but the boy here is supposed to be like a 15-year-old and wanting to play baseball. So Ricardo uh, gets on the ball field and goes to get the ball for him so the boy can play. This one here, true story. We were at Walmart, and a woman comes up and says, "Can my son pet your dog?" I said, "Sure." So I put Ricardo up in my lap so the boy can reach him from the buggy. And then all of a sudden, the boy points at Ricardo and says, "Dog." I said, "Yeah, buddy, he sure is. That's the dog." Well, then I look over at mother, and she's crying. And I
Oh,
go, "Oh,
wow.
ma'am." I said, "Oh, ma'am," because I didn't see him bite him or anything. And I'm going, "Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. I put Ricardo down. Said, I'm sorry. I don't know what he did, but I apologize for it." And then she says, "No, no, no. You don't understand. My son is autistic, and this is the first word I've ever heard him say." And the boy
Wow.
had to have been 4 years old. And um, I said, it goes on to show that these autistic people, the information's getting into them. They just the process of getting it back out. They struggle with because he didn't call Ricardo a cat. He didn't call him a doorknob. He didn't call him a tornado. He called him a dog. So they're
Yeah.
getting the information. It just gets scrambled up in there somehow. And this one
Ricardo provided the right stimulus for that young man
for
to
that
be
one
able
that
to
day,
speak.
and
That
mother
was
was
awesome.
yeah, and mother was
Mm,
crying, and
mm.
never saw them again. Never
Wow.
saw those two again. Um, Here, Ricardo goes hunting with Isaac. Partially true story. Well, no, it's not. None of it's true, except except Isaac was a 16-year-old that had cancer and he died
Oh,
16. Where in my book, uh, he goes through cancer. Ricardo goes to the hospital to visit him, and while he's doing treatments, and then he gets well enough to him and Ricardo go hunting together.
Oh, wow.
The other children's book, he brings a smile. He goes to an assisted living house and
Mhm.
he's dancing with them and playing volleyball and whatever else with them. And not to mention the old Christmas book. Ricardo gets to help
There you go.
Santa Claus and Rudolph in this one
Yeah.
here. So, all right.
Awesome book,
You
James.
know,
Wow.
Jen, I've got a, and I want to say, we don't believe in coincidence. I wasn't going to join this call this morning because I spent most of yesterday in the emergency room. Not
No, wow.
well, it was. If you've ever had diverticulitis, I mean, I
Oh,
tell you,
yes, sir. It's no fun.
not about me, but God, I'm so blessed to be on this. You know, I've spoken since full time since 1994, but I will tell you, all that are listening to this, and you three great people, it's been one of the most inspirational almost hours of my life. And I don't, and I'm
Wow.
not patronizing. And Jen, I hope you use this as a semi documentary, just because I can't wait to post it on LinkedIn because I have a lot of people in my life that are dog lovers,
Mhm.
and and just to hear this story of keeping hope alive. God, the number of lives, James, that Ricardo touched.
No, wow. It's no way to count how many
Right,
that
Jen,
Ricardo touched.
and the keeping hope alive
Mm.
for others. And Jen, I'll just tell you, James knows. I mean, if I can ever help you at an event to raise money for donuts, I mean, that's just that's my gift, and I can be there for you because I can't wait to share this with other people because we get so caught up in the hairball of life, you know. But
Mm.
to take time out to honor James, the legacy of somebody that loved you so much. And, you know, my
Mm.
faith's very important to me. James knows that. I don't proselytize, but, you know, the greatest commandment, the number one commandment is to love one another, right? And you
Yes.
didn't have to tell Ricardo that. That was
Mm.
just is in his DNA. And again, if dogs don't go to heaven, there ain't a heaven.
You know,
So
Ricardo was
I,
just
I,
love wrapped up in a big fur blanket. That's what he was.
I, uh, I told you, Bird, we had a discussion that a church I used to go to, minister come out openly, one of his sermon that day, and he was telling, I thought it was wrong, telling especially the 4, 5, 6, 10-year-old kids that your pet's not going to be in heaven waiting for you. And I thought that was wrong. That's something that needs to leave up to mom and dad to tell how they want to do it. He should have said, to me, he should have said, this is a sensitive topic. Give it a little idea of pets going to heaven. And if you may want to take your children out, then y'all can explain. But no, he did, and I thought that was totally wrong for
Well,
that.
Mm.
James, I'm interrupting you, but I'm not a Catholic. I study all faiths, but some of my best friends are Catholics. Uh, and my patron saint is Saint Francis. So you know who Saint Francis was of the nature and animals. And I
Hmm.
just say this: that preacher should have asked Saint Francis if dogs go to heaven, because I know Saint Francis or animals do. He would say, yeah, they do. Uh, so anyway,
I just can't believe that he's going to put that kind of enjoyment for us to have in life, and we're not going to have another opportunity to see him again. I just have a hard time believing, and I could be totally wrong, but I'm not going to look at it that way. You know, I want to believe Rainbow Bridge is really out there. You know that the poem for the
Okay.
ones that don't, for the ones on listening, if you haven't read Rainbow Bridge, go check it out. It's a nice poem, and just talking about how the dog is going to be there in its healthiest way, and then when they see you, going to pass back over that bridge, and y'all be back together. So all right, I'm going to take much more time from here. Last thing, what's good? Remember, Jen, I'll just send you. This book is your personal library.
ah, yes.
Uh,
This is
that's
going to
an
be in your
awesome book,
personal
man.
library, and Ch- Ricardo's chapter 15. And
Mhm.
so I've already made a decision. It's time for us to do a second edition where we'll add the final chapter with Ricardo
Mm.
into it. But from here, again, it talks about the suicide and the reason I went after Ricardo and everything. And so it's that's going to be your personal copy when I do what they call get it in the mail.
That's
Thank you.
quite fitting title, One More Play. That's what Ricardo wanted that night when Fair had to get him up so he could come and lay at your bed one more time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. I tell you, there's one little funny story is I don't know, probably been home maybe 2 months with Ricardo, and I'm assuming the someone on TV gave a command to Ricardo, and it wasn't me. And he's rolled on his back, and then I look over there, and he's looking at me like it's time to release. I want to get up, and I'm looking. What are you doing, man? Like yeah, he's just laying there. So I'm assuming someone on TV said roll or something, and and so he's just looking at me, and then he's wagging his tail, wanting to get up, and I go release. And all of a sudden, he jumped up real fast and comes running to me. And so I'm assuming that. But he loved one of his biggest love times is my brother at midnight, well, 11 o'clock at night. He would take Ricardo for a walk, and they'd walk anywhere from half a mile to a mile when he was younger. And Ricardo just, I guess they learn it's time. I want to go walking, whatever. But my brother, I'll do it at 11. About 10:30, he's following my brother all through the house because it's time he wants to go walk.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah. And so they did that up to the last. Now we cut the walk down quite a bit, just to the stop sign and back as he got older. But yeah, he would take a long walk with my brother uh, every night with him. So.
Wow.
James, I know you've told me privately. I don't know if you've shared it on your podcast, but the story when your phone fell and went under your bed.
Yeah,
I love that story.
Oh, yeah.
that's in the book when you get it,
Ah,
Jen.
okay.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons is I was transferring out of my bed in my wheelchair, and too many times my wheelchair was having a mind of its own, and I was missing it. And one time it took me 3 hours to drag myself
Wow.
from my bedroom to the living room to get the phone to call for help. And that's when someone said, maybe you ought to get a service dog. And that's when we started the process. Uh, so got him home and Ricardo home. I don't know, but it could have been a month or so. And all of a sudden I'm transferring. I'm half on the chair, half I'm going, oh man, I don't want to hit the floor. And I reached for my phone on the bed and I dropped it and went under the bed. And I'm going,
Yeah.
oh man. And I said, I go, wait a minute. I got a dog that'll get that phone for me now. And I said, Ricardo, he's in the other room. Ricardo, he comes in there. I said, get the phone. And I'm trying to point to get him under the bed. All of a sudden, I see him go under the bed. I see that tail wagging about a million miles a minute. I mean, he's all happy. He backs up out of there and he has his tennis ball. And I'm going, no, Ricardo, the phone, get the phone. And so he goes back under. That tail's going 100 miles an hour again. He backs up. No, Ricardo. He got his water bottle. He's crunching it. Crunch, 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 crunch. I go, no, Ricardo, get the phone. And third time's the charm. He come back with the phone, and we were able to call for somebody to help me. So before I hit the floor, so,
He was happy to help. He just took him a
well,
minute to get
he,
the.
Yeah.
he wanted to help
Oh,
himself
wow.
first.
Yeah.
So no,
Oh,
but
that's
it
funny.
turned out to make for a good story and everything. But I mean, I love him. He's in the backyard right there, and maybe going to get a little old monument for him just because he deserves it. And wouldn't do it for my cat, but I'll do it for him. So so
Yeah, Ricardo deserves his own spot to rest. He sure
so
does.
all right. Anybody else got anything? This has been a great hour. I've been
I
really
just
enjoying
wanted to
this.
say I thank you, James, for you know being my friend and caring for me. And I am so grateful. And as Bert has said many times, this podcast, I feel so blessed by your friendship. And I was so blessed to be at least a small little part of Ricardo's life and to see how much joy he brought to you and to others. So thank you for that.
So, oh,
And
last thing with that one book. Hey, Judy Bacon, she ain't listening, watching. Love you, James. Judy was my English teacher in high school, and she says,
oh,
James, how did you get a doctorate? So,
Well, James, I've got to sign off here shortly. I got a call, but I just want to, and what Jen said, and Jen and Jen, the J squared. Uh, you know, pretty emotional. Like Jen said, I am honored and humbled, and from the bottom of my heart, you're like I told you, you're my brother from another mother, and I just was so blessed to know Ricardo and you, and just blessed to keep our friendship going along. Your story needs to be told and heard by more people, and
Yes.
and I know I'm going to do my part, put this on LinkedIn, but I know Jen's probably going to share it with other people. And Jen, I'm here to help you and serve you because I love dogs. Again, they love us unconditionally. And, hope is a spark of life, and we all need to share our flame, right? And Ricardo sure did that. So thank you. I'm blessed.
Uh, thank you, Bird, and everything for you coming in and sharing with us as well. And Jen, last one, I told him earlier that I met this one man, and he said he knew that his dog loved him more than his wife loved him. And he said I can demonstrate and prove it. He says I can take my dog and put him in the trunk of my car and come back an hour later. His tail will be wagging, he'll be licking me, kissing me. He said, but if I put my wife in the trunk of that car and come back in an hour, so
different story.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, ladies. Bert, again, thank you for coming in. Everybody else, thank you for listening, watching. Ladies, y'all have anything else you want to finish up with? This is it.
Yep.
I
Salute to
appreciate y'all
Ricardo,
coming
man.
in and appreciate y'all coming in and help sharing. It would have been boring me by myself. So, but I would
No,
have plenty of stories anyway, though.
yeah,
So,
just thank you so much, James. It really is a privilege, like you said, to be able to look back with you and share Ricardo's life and stories. And I'm just so glad that we were part of your life. And I'm so glad that Ricardo was matched with you and that he was yours, you were his. And it's pretty remarkable to think just that impact over the many years and the many
Oh
people
man.
and all those
Mm.
stories. And just thank you for letting me be a part of today. I have so enjoyed having you as a client, as a graduate, as an ambassador for Canine Companions. You and Ricardo are have just been a phenomenal team. So it's been great.
all right. Thank you. And let's do the old thing. What to say is don't be a stranger. So, all right. Everyone else, thank you for coming in, listening. Hey, be sure to share us with other people you know that are dog lovers, animal lovers, and let them know that, we really believe that you're going to see them again later on. Okay. And
There
good
you go.
stories, share. Everybody ought to have a little, I mean, it's no difference than when one of us pass away that people want to share their good stories. They are in the family, they are part of the family, and from there. Everybody else, I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week. It's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.